I'm so proud. This is my firstborn, and there's a strong anointing on her. And I'm just going to ask that we just pray over her as she gives us the word. And a lot of people, Michaela shared little like nuggets here and there, and I find like people say, "She needs to preach. She needs to preach." So here it goes, and I'm excited because I really believe God is empowering women. He's empowering men, the next generation. I think we're going to even see children preach.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to see a Sunday morning where a kid preaches. You know? And so it's coming. There's lots that's going on. God's doing great things. The Holy Spirit is the same Holy Spirit. There's no little Holy Spirit, no big, just Holy Spirit. So, Father, I thank you for Michaela. I thank you, Lord God, for the anointing that's on her life and her generation. And I first just want to say that those that are under 30 are not lazy. I break every curse that's spoken over that generation. In fact, they're a generation that is causing the church to have to change. They're a generation that is forcing the finger of God to begin to shift the hand of God. And so we thank you, Lord God, for what you're doing. And we call forth this generation and their creativity and their ability to walk in transparency and authenticity. And I thank you that they're going to do it different and it's okay. We release that now. We release that now in Jesus' name. Thank you, Father. Amen.
Amen. Not the coaster. Wow, good morning.
Good morning.
It's so exciting to be here and to share with everyone, with all of you who are watching and all of you who are here in person. I know for a handful of you, you felt like this is a long time coming, and I just wanted to first say thank you because if it weren't for the fathers in my life, I wouldn't even be here. So I just wanted to specifically thank my own dad for just modeling what it looks like to live a life in service to the Lord and to other people, for modeling what it looks like to love unconditionally and love to the end of yourself. I also want to thank my second father, Pat Olson. Man, Pat just took dreams that I didn't even believe in anymore, and he made my dreams his own dreams until they were my dreams again. And that is a gift that I will never be able to repay. The only way I can repay it is just by living my life. And I just want to say thank you, because that is just a gift that I will treasure forever, that you believed in my dreams when I didn't believe in them anymore. And I am living proof. I am here today because of the hours and years really of you and Shannon believing in me and praying into my life and believing for me. I also want to thank Papa Steve, of course, for believing in me and just seeing things in me. I want to thank John Marvin, just all the dads in my life. There's a number of them, but there's just so many dads in my life where I would not be here this morning without their love and belief. And it's honestly a huge tie-in to what I want to talk about this morning, and the message that's on my heart to share with you is what does it look like to be fathered? What does it look like to be covered by a father? And so I'd like to share with you guys about a father's covering. And you know, I believe that it's one thing to have a father. It's another thing to know your father, but it's everything to be covered by the Father. That's good. And so I've radically encountered the Father's love myself over the past 2 to 3 years. It's been a transformative experience in my life of being fathered and receiving a Father's love. But before that point, I didn't know what that looked like. I grew up very independent. I have always wanted to do things my own way. I've always wanted to figure things out myself and not need help from anybody else. And actually in preparation for my message, I asked my dad, I said, hey, can you think of a time specifically that you remember me being really independent as a child? And his response was, oh yeah, ages 2 to 18. Which is true, and he was actually being really kind, because in reality, I was probably ages 2 to 22 before I figured out how to not be so independent. But independence in my life, there's strength to being responsible for yourself, but there's also a lot of harm that independence can cause. And so just my background, I grew up as the oldest of 6 kids, and I really grew up as a third parent. I grew up overly responsible, overly serious, and just my own person. I didn't need anybody or anything. That was just how I lived my life. I could figure things out on my own. I didn't need anybody else. And this really got kind of extreme and magnified when I was 15 years old and I was in a traumatic car accident. Some of you know this story, some of you don't, but I was 15. I was a passenger in a car, and a 6.5-pound rock came through the windshield and actually fractured my skull. I had a subdural hematoma, which is just bleeding in between some protective layers of my brain. And I had traumatic brain surgery. And this experience, it did a lot in my heart, but what it really did was it exposed this lie that was already growing. It exposed this lie that I'm not safe and I'm not protected. And I have to take care of myself because nobody else is going to. Now, I want to say that's not a reflection of my parents, because my parents are amazing. It was a lie that I took hold of and believed. Somewhere, somehow, I just believed this lie that I was responsible for myself. And so when this happened, it felt like no one was there to protect me. This God who was supposed to protect me and preserve my life, it felt like an oops, like when a parent turns their back for a second and then the kid touches the stove. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like, man, you turned around for a second and you just let this happen to me. You didn't protect me. And so it magnified this lie of I'm on my own. I have to protect myself. And it felt like anything random could happen at any time, and no, even to my best ability, I can't protect myself. And so I developed a system of rules and control to make myself safe. And I systematically cut off relationships in my life because it just proved that, okay, God's not going to protect me. My parents can't protect me. The world isn't safe. I'm not even safe. So I'm just going to shut everything down. And so I essentially just disassociated. I became really distant from my family and from my parents. I didn't really have very many friends. And I was really out of touch with even myself and how I was feeling. And I had all of these rules to protect myself of things that I could or couldn't do, things that I would say or wouldn't say, situations that I would be in or wouldn't be in. It just all had to kind of pass this checklist in my life. And I wouldn't say anything unless I knew the outcome that it was going to have. I wouldn't do anything unless I knew the outcome that was going to happen. I had to have some sense of predictability in my life and safety in my life. Because I'd never experienced what it was like to have fathering and to have covering and protection. So I thought I didn't know what that looked like. So we're going to pause that story because it connects to a story that you all are very familiar with. It is in Luke 15, the story of the Prodigal Son. And so I want to share with you a key in this story and a few others that I recently found as I was studying that's really important. So Luke 15, it starts in verse 11. It says, "Then Jesus said, 'Once there was a father with 2 sons. The younger son came to his father and said, "Father, don't you think it's time to give me the share of your estate that belongs to me?" So the father went ahead and distributed among the 2 sons their inheritance. Shortly afterward, the younger son packed up all his belongings and traveled off to see the world. He journeyed to a far-off land where he soon wasted all he was given in a binge of extravagant and reckless living. With everything spent and nothing left, he grew hungry, for there was a severe famine in that land. So he begged a farmer in that country to hire him. The farmer hired him and sent him out to feed the pigs. The son was so famished he was willing to even eat the slop given to the pigs because no one would feed him a thing. Humiliated, the son finally realized what he was doing, and he thought, "There are many workers at my father's house who have all the food they want with plenty to spare. They lack nothing. Why am I here dying of hunger, feeding these pigs and eating their slop? I want to go back home to my father's house, and I'll say to him, 'Father, I was wrong. I have sinned against you. I'll never be worthy to be called your son. Please, Father, just treat me like one of your employees.' So the young son set off for home. From a long distance away, his father saw him coming dressed as a beggar, and great compassion swelled up in his heart for his son who was returning home. So the father raced out to meet him. He swept him up in his arms, hugged him dearly, and kissed him over and over with tender love. Then the son said, 'Father, I was wrong. I have sinned against you. I could never deserve to be called your son. Just let me eat.' The father interrupted and said, 'Son, you're home now.' Turning to his servants, the father said, 'Quick, bring me the best robe, my very own robe, and I will place it on his shoulders. Bring the ring, the seal of sonship, and I will put it on his finger. And bring out the best shoes you can find for my son. Let's prepare a great feast and celebrate. For this beloved son of mine was once dead, but now he's alive again. Once he was lost, but now he is found.' And everyone celebrated with overflowing joy." So what I want to share from this story is about independence and about coming back into covering and returning to the Father's love. So I'd like to define a few terms. So if we talk about inheritance, your inheritance is your birthright. So you always have your inheritance. When you become a child of God and you accept Jesus into your heart, you automatically step into inheritance. So no matter what, your inheritance is secure. You're always going to have inheritance, right? Next is the blessing. So a blessing is the favor that comes with inheritance. So the Father gives us the blessing and it activates our inheritance. That's a free gift by the Father. So that's what the blessing looks like. Now we come to covering. So covering is our choice. So covering is something that we choose to step into and come under. It's something that we choose to submit to, and that we live inside of. So the covering is our piece. It's something that we get to choose to partner with God in. And covering is important because it sustains the inheritance and the blessing. Yes. So without covering, we can still have inheritance and blessing, but covering is what sustains that. So when we look at this story about the son, he always had his inheritance. It was always his. He was a son. He always had the inheritance. And in this story, he wanted the blessing without covering. Right. He wanted the favor and he wanted his inheritance without the covering of the Father. So he prematurely activated his inheritance outside of covering.
Good one.
He exercised his blessing without covering and chose independence over covering. And we can do this because we have free will. So we always have that choice. We can say, thank you, God, I want this inheritance. I want this blessing. Now I'm going to go use it the way I want to use it. I'm going to go live my life. We can do that. We have that choice. But without covering, then it's up to us to sustain that blessing and sustain that inheritance. So anything that comes through that is our job to maintain. And then this creates performance, where I'm constantly working to maintain this blessing. I'm constantly working. So the son, he had his inheritance, and then he had to go work to make it happen. So this lie comes in that you can't have covering unless you work for it. And then he started working with the pigs. to get his food, to get the blessing, to get the covering. He decides to go back to his father and work as a servant to get covering. And independence leads to death. It says in here, for this beloved son of mine was once dead. And I believe that is the curse of independence, that we die. We die to the relationships around us. We die to the life that God has meant for us, because what we're doing is we're working for something that was always meant to be free. Yeah. Covering was always meant to be a free gift. But when we choose independence, we buy into I have to work, I have to perform to sustain this, and then it's not free anymore. And that's a lie. And so independence kills off that piece inside of us that longs to know the Father and longs to be covered by him. Yeah. And this is the classic trap of the enemy. It's a classic lie that he tells us that we need to be independent. We need to do it on our own. It goes all the way back to the garden. Adam and Eve, the lie that they believed was choose your own destiny. Choose your own fate. They had everything. They had full inheritance. They had full blessing of God in the garden. And the enemy said, choose to cover yourselves. Choose to do your own thing. Choose independence. When they were already in the garden, they already had everything at their disposal. It's the original lie of the enemy is choose yourself over the Father. Choose your own desire over everything that he's already given you. And it's the kindness of God, because even in the garden, when they chose something other than what he had for them, God covered them. Yeah. If you look in that story, in their shame and in their disobedience, in the middle of their disobedience, before they even reconciled and repented, God covered them with skins of animals. He covered them in their disobedience. And I've experienced this firsthand, where I've been in active disobedience to the Lord, and I've still felt covered and protected by him. I've been in active independence, and I've been in active, I'm going to do it my own way. I know you said this, God, but I think this is a better decision, and I'm going to do it my way. And he's so kind, and he loves you so much, because he's a good father that he covers you. He's a good father. He's not going to abandon you and leave you out in the cold in the dirt. He loves you. He covered them in the garden. He's covering you today. But that's not the end, right? That's an option, but that's not how the story has to end. We can return, right? We can return. And so I want to look at another story about covering and what it looks like to choose covering. So actually in the story of Ruth. So Ruth was a Moabite, which means she wasn't actually originally born a Jew. She married into a Jewish family, and her husband died. And so she bound herself to her mother-in-law and said, I'm going to go with you anywhere. You're all I have left. So they made a life together in Naomi, who was the mother-in-law in Naomi's hometown. And so they are working. They're just trying to make a living. They're working to sustain their own lives, right? And so there is this setup that happens, this grand setup where the Lord just comes through. And so Ruth is working in a field. She's just gleaning the excess of the harvest so that she and her mother-in-law can have a living. And they find out that the field that she's working in is actually the fields of a distant relative of Naomi's, which means that this relative is their kinsman redeemer, which means he can marry Ruth and save them from utter destitution and desolation. And so in this story, in Ruth 3, they come up with this plan where Ruth is going to come to Boaz, and who is the man, and present herself to him and say, listen, you're my kinsman redeemer. You have to help us, right? And so this is what happens in the story. In this part of the story, it's in Ruth chapter 3, verse 6, 7, and 8, okay? So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law had commanded her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. And she came secretly and uncovered his feet and lay down. It happened in the middle of the night that the man was startled and bent forward, and behold, a woman was lying at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your maid. So spread your covering over your maid, for you are a close relative." So, here's another story that we have of covering. And in this particular story, the word covering means like to stretch out your wings. Like, cover me under your wings. Cover me, it means the edge of a garment. Cover me with your wings. So she's asking for his protection and his oversight.
Wow.
And provision. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay? So here's something else. It also means the edge of a garment. So where else in the Bible do we see someone reaching for the edge of a garment? So in Mark chapter 5, we have a woman who's bleeding, who's in desperation, and she reaches for the edge of the garment. Do you not think she's reaching for the covering? She recognizes that there's covering in Jesus, that he gives her access to the Father.
Yeah.
And then what does Jesus call her? He calls her daughter. So we have access through the covering, and we see it because in Ruth's story, Ruth is the direct line. She inherits a legacy because she chooses to submit to covering, so that years later another woman can choose covering, can choose the covering of the Father and get set free and healed and delivered and come into the kingdom. Do you not see that the Lord has covered you? That this is part of our inheritance, but it's an active choice. We get to choose his covering. We get to grab hold of it. In some translations, I believe it like she touches. You can apprehend the covering. Grab the covering. So in Ruth's story, she chose to be covered. And that's the huge key of covering, is that there's legacy with that. Because covering sustains the inheritance and sustains the blessing, there's legacy that we also get to see when we choose covering. So covering is about more than just me. It's about the big picture. You know, I can have inheritance in this lifetime. I can have blessing in my lifetime. But what about the future generation? If I'm not under covering, then I'm not leaving a legacy behind me. Because Ruth chose covering. She's in direct line to David, who's in direct line to Jesus. That's what covering does for us. That's what choosing to be covered by a Father can do for our lives. We get to step into a legacy. It goes past and present. We get to step into this legacy that's so much bigger than me. You know, with the prodigal son, if he had just chosen his inheritance and he had just lived, he lived his life. But it would have ended there. That would have been the end of it. But then when you come back into family, when you come back under covering and you come back into the Father's love, then you have inheritance that goes beyond. You have legacy that goes beyond you because you're in a family, you're in community. So it's bigger than me. Covering is about something way bigger than just me.
Good.
So, in my own life, I was the son. I decided that I didn't need anybody. I had disassociated from myself. I was really estranged from the people around me pretty much. I didn't have close relationship with people. And this cycle of independence created pressure to perform. And I did believe that I had to perform to receive love. I had to perform to be covered. I had to perform to keep myself safe. I had to follow all the rules that I made for myself. I had to do all the right things to be covered, to be safe. Because I didn't know. I didn't know that there was a Father who actually covered me and I didn't have to do anything. It hadn't clicked yet in my brain. And it created this war inside myself. Because I was so conflicted with, when you choose independence, you're the judge. I'm the end all be all. So I have to decide for myself what's true, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And I'm judging everyone else around me by that same measure. I'm judging myself and I'm judging everyone else around me. And so I'm taking on pressure and weight that I was never meant to take on.
Yeah.
And so I was living in this, and that's why independence again is death to us, because it makes us God. It makes us, that's again, even Adam, they chose the knowledge of good and evil. So you choose in independence to decide for yourself what's good and what's evil. And it's a weight that we were never meant to carry.
Wow.
We were meant to be under covering
That's
because
so good.
Jesus carries that weight. Father carries
That's
that
right.
weight. That's never meant to be put on you, child. You're a child. You're never meant to carry that weight of deciding what's right for me, what's wrong for me, what's right for other people, what's wrong for other people. That wasn't ever meant to be your burden to bear. But we choose independence and we put that burden on ourselves. And so covering looks like lifting that burden. He's a good father and he takes that burden off of you. So I remember probably 3 years ago, maybe, and I was sitting in Pat and Shannon's life group, and torment is the best word I have for it. I was so conflicted inside. I was so distressed. I had to figure everything out myself. That's what I thought. That's how I lived. And it was just creating all of this turmoil inside of me, all of this intensity, all of this torment where I couldn't even think straight. I couldn't even focus. I thought I was losing my mind. And I was believing all of these lies. And I didn't even know how to communicate it. I just remember sitting in this room and just crying. And I hadn't even really said anything. And Pat, being a father, came to me and he looked at me. And I just remember so clearly. He said, Michaela, do you believe that you're not covered? That you're outside of covering? And something inside of me broke. Because it's in all of our hearts to be covered. We were meant to be covered by a father. And this longing and this need inside of me that I didn't even know I had got spoken to by a father. A father spoke truth. And that night, he covered me. And Pat said, Michaela, you're covered. Michaela, you're seen. Michaela, you're loved. He spoke the truth over me, and he imparted a father's blessing, and it was probably the first experience in my life of being what it looked like to be covered by a father, to not have to carry that weight anymore. I didn't have to carry that weight anymore. And that's what Father wants to do for you. He doesn't want you to carry weight anymore that you've been carrying. It's not yours to carry because you're covered. So coming under covering, if we look back at our stories, it looks like submission and returning. So Ruth submitted. She knew that she needed to call on a power higher than herself. She needed to submit to someone who had greater authority than she did. And so there's submission that comes with covering. And the son, there's some translations that say he came to himself. So that there's an acknowledgement and a returning that happens, that takes place. So we acknowledge our need to be covered and we return to the Father. And so for me, that moment sparked a recognition in my heart. I recognized I don't know what it's like to be fathered like this. I don't know what it's like to be covered. And so there was a recognition in my heart of this is something that I need. And then there was an acknowledgement that I didn't know him as Father. And that started the journey that opened up the doorway for me to experience what he was like. Because now I could see it. And now I could look for it and hunt for it. And now he could bless me with it because I came and submitted myself to him. And so for me, being covered looked like allowing myself to be parented. Because I'd grown up parenting myself. I grew up not needing anybody else. And so I had to learn, how do I get moms and dads in my life? And how do I ask them for help? How do I be parented by moms and dads? I just created a value for moms and dads. And the Lord brought them to me. No matter where I was, I had moms and dads. I had Pat and Shannon. I had Dan and Teresa. I have Courtney and Chad. I have Tim and Nancy. I mean, I have this wealth of
Yeah,
parents.
so
And so
good.
when you start looking for them, when you start acknowledging the need, the Lord can bring the answer to you, and that need can get met. So you have to acknowledge the need. I acknowledge the need. I need to be parented. I'm tired of parenting myself. I need people in my
So
life.
good.
And it was that quick that people started coming into my life.
Yes.
Coming under covering looked like asking for comfort and asking for love. When you deny yourself, like independence causes denial a little bit, where I'm independent, I'm self-sufficient, so I don't need anything. I don't need to be comforted. I don't need love from other people. I don't need X, Y, and Z. I don't need help. I don't need anybody in my life. And so I had to very slowly dismantle those walls by letting my heart be comforted without having solutions and answers, by calling those moms and dads, by calling the people in my life and saying, I need love, I need to be comforted, this thing is happening and my heart is broken over it. So the Father wants to do that for you as well. You can do that with other people, but you can do that with the Father, where you can come to Him and say, man, my heart just needs love. Would you just show me your love, Father? Would you just love me and give me a Father's blessing today? It looks like coming to Him and saying, man, like my heart's really troubled, God. Would you just give me peace today? It's just asking Him, and He's a Father. He's a Father, He's a Father, He's a Father. He loves meeting your needs. He didn't make you a human with needs so that they would get neglected, so that they would just get ignored. He made you a human with needs so that they could be met, and they could be met in a proper and healthy way. He made you a human with needs so that He could meet those needs, so that you would realize that He's it. He's the end all be all. And so that was huge for me as well. It's just allowing myself to have needs, but getting them met by the Father and getting them met by healthy, strong people in my life. It looks like acknowledging and repenting of independence, because independence is not how the Father designed us to be. And so there is a point where you have to repent for that, for choosing yourself over the Father.
Yeah.
And so I took a moment to repent of, man, like I've tried to do my own way for a really long time. I've tried to fix it myself. I've tried to fix myself when I don't need fixing. I just need love. I've tried to figure things out myself and make solutions and make systems and make plans when all I need to do is receive love.
Yeah, come on.
And so it's not a shame thing. It's a free thing. Repenting of independence sets you free from the pressure. So repentance isn't this heavy, burdensome. It's sad because your heart hurts that, man, I've lived this way for so long. I'm sad that I've lived this way for so long. But repentance sets you free. So I don't want you to think of, man, I have to go repent. I have to beat myself up. That's not what repentance is. Repenting of independence means, man, I'm so sad that I believed a lie that I could live my life without you. That makes me sad. But now I see it, and I'm so sorry, and I don't want to do it again.
Nice.
And I need you.
Yeah.
That's repentance, and
So
it's His kindness, and He comes in with kindness. When you start acknowledging those things, He's so kind to come close to us.
Yes.
And Jesus is the great Redeemer. So, like I said before, even in disobedience, He still chooses you, and He still takes those things and redeems them when we surrender them to Him. So when I surrender my choices to Him, when I surrender the things that I've done out of disobedience, and I give those things to Him, it's His great pleasure to redeem them.
So good.
And Jesus came to give us access to the Father. We saw in the story of the woman who just touched the cloak of His garment, who just asked to be covered by Him. He immediately called her daughter. Immediately. She didn't even ask Him into her heart or say the prayer or repent of anything. She just asked for covering. She just asked to be close to Him, and He immediately called her daughter. And so it's an instant access. We have
So good.
access to covering, we just need to apprehend it. And that's the whole reason Jesus came, to show us what the Father looks like, to show us how to come into the Father's presence. So let him redeem you. Choose him. Choose him. Let him redeem you. Inside of covering, we experience inheritance and blessing. We experience hope and dreams. Inside of covering, we experience community and family.
Yeah.
Inside of covering, we experience courage to take risks. So I'm okay taking a risk because I know that I'm covered. And I know that I have support around me. I can take a risk because it's not all on me to figure it out. It's on my dad. I'm covered. It's on my father. You know, it's us together. So I can do anything. I literally can do anything because he's covered me. I can dream and I can succeed and I can choose what he has for me, and it's not on me. It's a partnership with him. We get to do it together. And so I also have freedom to fail. I can fail successfully because I'm covered by the love of the Father. So I can try something and I can miss it, and then I just come back and say, okay, what do we do instead, God? Like, what's the next step? So I have room inside of covering to fail and succeed. It's not about being perfect. It's about choosing to be covered by him. Inside of covering, I have freedom to be myself because I'm not trying to perform for anybody. I know who I am. I know that my Father's covered me, so I get to be fully 100% myself. I have been the most myself in the last year than I have ever been, because I've chosen to be covered by the people who love me and who see me.
Good.
Because inside of covering, I have people who actually get to see me. People who see me for who I am. When I'm independent and I'm choosing my own way, no one ever gets to see me because they don't ever get close enough. So I'm constantly being somebody else. I'm constantly being all these different people. I never get to be myself. But when I choose covering, when I choose other people, then other people see me for who I really am. And then that gives me freedom to express and be who I truly am.
Wow, good word.
And inside of covering, there's legacy. So not only do I leave a legacy behind for future generations, but I step into a legacy that's already gone on before me. So here's the next crazy piece, you guys, because we choose to step into covering. That legacy that Ruth started is my legacy as well. So all this generations, all that lineage of Jesus, and not obviously not literally, but I'm speaking spiritually, we have access to a legacy that spans. So this all these stories, this is my legacy. Because I chose covering. So all these stories, this is my family. This is all this freedom that people fought for and war for, I already have. I just have to read it and I just have to choose it. All these wars and all these battles that these people fought, it's my legacy. Those trophies on the wall, those are mine. Those battles that they won, that's mine. That's my victory. Because we're co-heirs with Christ, right? So everything that Jesus did, that's mine too, because I chose to be covered by him, covered by his blood. I submit to him, and then I receive. So the lie of independence tells you that covering is going to be restrictive, right? And so if I choose covering, I'm going to be limited. There's going to be borders on my life. You can't trust those people. You can't trust God. He's just going to ask you to do a bunch of things. There's going to be rules and limits and borders on your life. And that's a lie from the hell. Because independence creates more of that. Because in independence, it's all up to me. So I actually restrict myself more. But in covering, that word means it wings. It's spread out. It means the very edge of the garment. So under covering, I have fullest access. I have the fullest extent. When I choose covering, it means I can go. I can exceed the limits. There's no limits in covering in the kingdom of God, right? And so I think I'm hoping this is all making sense. I get really excited and jump around a little bit. But I think I would just like to end with the truth that Jesus came and he redeemed you so you could be covered by the Father. And that's the truth. And choosing Jesus is choosing coverings, and choosing the Father is to choose all of these things. We've been chosen by God, and so now it's up to us to just choose Him back, to choose to be covered. And I think a lot of you are longing to hear Him look at you like that woman and call you daughter, call you son. And I really believe today is that day.
Yeah.
And I just want to release an encounter over you. That you will fully experience Him turning to you and calling you daughter. You'll fully experience Him looking you in the face and calling you son. That you will experience the love and encounter of the Father. That you'll begin to experience the covering of the Father, that you're not in this alone. You're in this with Him. And He chooses you. He chooses to cover you with His love.
That's so good.
He chooses to cover you. Even in disobedience, His heart is so for you that He comes after you with His love. He's chasing you down. All morning I've just felt the Father's love so heavy and so overwhelming. And I honestly feel like what I experience on this earth is even just a taste of it. It's not even the fullest extent of His love. And I just want to release that over you this morning. That you would encounter the Father's love. That you would have an experience of a returning. That you would return to yourself. You would return to the Father. That there would be a cry in your heart, a questioning in your heart that says, cover me, Father. Just say that right now. Just ask Him. Just say, cover me, Father. Show me what it looks like to be covered by you.
Jesus.
And God, we just ask that all these things and more would be added to us, Lord God. That as we step into your covering, that we would fully begin to experience and see that we are free, that we are whole, that under your covering, God, we're redeemed. That under your covering, God, you take everything and you make it so beautiful. Thank you, God, for showing us that under covering we can literally do the fullest extent of what you've asked us to do. That under covering we experience your grace, and so then we're empowered to go out. We're empowered to achieve our dreams, to dream dreams.
That's right, Jesus.
We're empowered to see hope. We're empowered to see restoration in our lives and in the lives of others. And God, I just ask right now that you would radically come in with love. That people's hearts would be open, even just a crack, and you would just explode with love in people's hearts. Ask right now, Father God, that if we could just touch the edge, if we could just touch you, if we could just grab a hold of your covering, that you would look upon us and call us daughter and call us son. That you would cover us with the Father's love.
Yes, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. There's another piece to this that, as Michaela was speaking, that I feel is really important that we do in closing. A lot of what's going on in our nation right now with the riots and things that we're seeing, I believe, are because there's been a lot of control. And even in church, leaders have controlled people and they've not truly been covered. And so some of the independence and the rebellion comes because people don't want to be controlled. And even God doesn't control us. We make the choices. And so I felt on behalf of a leader in a church, and even in our nation sometimes, Tim and I are going to preach, I think next week, and we're going to talk about the highest form of government that the unbeliever has is the civil government. The highest form of government we have as believers is a heavenly government. And I believe people are crying out for a heavenly government. And so as Michaela was sharing, I felt led to repent on behalf of spiritual leaders and just leaders in general that have tried to control people. The Lord gave me a picture of what I see the Loft, kind of our legacy and our heritage. And Paul Manwaring shared this, and I'm going to steal it, but covering looks like an umbrella. And a lot of times what happens is as leaders, we hold the umbrella and you just follow what I'm doing. And you're covered as long as you do what I tell you to do. Or I'm the one holding the umbrella. But empowering in the kingdom looks like this.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. And then eventually I leave and she has the umbrella. Someone else comes under and she hands an umbrella. Everybody gets their own umbrella, but they remember where the umbrella came from. They honor who gave them the umbrella. Covering really is about honor. I honor this way, and this way honors this way. And so what we do sometimes as leaders is we don't trust people with the umbrella. And she may hold here. But that's okay. She's covering. I might hold it here. I hold it with one hand. The key is covering, and our job as fathers and mothers is not to be the ones that hold the. You can touch the umbrella, but don't hold it. Put one hand on it. As long as you hold it like I hold it. But leaders should empower, and when Michaela said they take the pressure off, the pressure we put on is the fear of not being able to handle the umbrella correctly.
That's really good.
So what we do is we release it. Because when there's empowerment, what happens is honor is an issue of the heart. Because I'm her dad, she has spiritual fathers and mothers, she honors the heart. And so I just want to repent on behalf of leaders where there's been control instead of covering. So Father, I ask that you forgive spiritual leaders and even political leaders in our nation, God, where there's been control instead of release, empowerment, and covering. And so God, I ask people to forgive me as a leader and to forgive leaders who out of insecurity and fear have brought control into churches and into institutions. And Lord, it's time for the whole body to be empowered and everybody gets an umbrella. And so we ask right now for release, Lord God, of covering in the blood of Jesus. Thank you so much, Lord God. Amen. Good job. I'm proud. So may we be a church that releases lots of umbrellas.
Yes.
And, because what happens when you get an umbrella, you can sing in the rain.
Especially in Oregon.
Love you guys. Happy Father's Day.
Bye.